Zombies. What are zombies? We've seen them at the cinemas, we've seen them on the streaming channels, on the small screen. Hordes of people, dead people, coming after you to attack you and turn you into a zombie. That's the Hollywood zombie. But what are the real zombies? Well, let's have a look. And welcome to the Bric-a-Brac Shop. This is the platform to the esoteric, which compromises of the paranormal, the spiritual, and the unexplained, because I believe everything will be simply explained by quantum physics one day. So welcome. I'm Tom from the shop, and this is Dory, our mascot. So welcome everybody, and we're going to talk about zombies. Now, if you do like this episode, do click the like button, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you don't miss out on any of our future videos that we're bringing up. Zombies. Well, what do we know about zombies? Probably, well, in recent times, the zombies that we know are basically ending up to be undead people, and they run around in herds trying to attack people. Zombies are nothing like that, and they're almost harmless, because doing my research, I haven't found or heard of any zombies actually inflicting any harm on anybody. In fact, they're basically used a lot of the time as slaves. I was fortunate enough to attend the zombie exhibition in Paris at the Musee du Quai Branley, Jacques Chirac Museum in Paris. And that's where they had the zombie exhibitions. It was curated by Philippe Chadier. He's actually the director of the Laboratory of Anthropology, Archaeology and Biology. And he put this whole exhibition of zombies together. There's a lot more that went on in the exhibition. In fact, it was a look at zombies through the centuries, like the last 400 years, till the evolution of what we think of zombies are today, which is far from what zombies actually are. As I said, we know zombies as being a hordes of undead chasing after people to eat their flesh and turn more people into zombies, but that's far from the truth. And we've seen it in films like The Walking Dead, Zombies, World War Z, all those type of films. It is far from the truth, because zombies are nothing like it. So let's go back. Zombies are known to have originated from the island of Haiti in the Caribbean. And apparently they're still prominent today, except we just don't know about it. And there are 4 types of zombies. There's the classical zombie, the criminal zombie, the psychiatric zombie, and the social zombie. And you may laugh, but these are the categories they've ended up classifying them in. Now, the one that we probably know, or probably the second that we know, is the person that has done a wrong. Like they've sold land that didn't belong to them, or they've done a crime, murdered someone. And so they have actually been trialed by a secret society and then condemned to be a zombie. And being a zombie, you can then start to work for other people. The second type of zombie, which is probably the one that we've seen a lot of, or know more of in the classical sense, not the modern day version of the zombie, is the criminal zombie. This one has actually been poisoned or turned into a zombie without a trial, mainly to be disposed and used and taken advantage of, so to speak. The third one is the psychiatric zombie, one that displays traits of a zombie, like being in a trance and not knowing what's going on, and maybe had the effects of actually being a zombie. And the fourth one is the social zombie, one that is associated with a stolen identity. They will use a zombie if someone has passed away in the family, like the father, the person that you look up to in the family. They may get someone else to be a zombie and take his place. So he's in the household, he's around the place, and people almost treat him like the original person that has passed on. So they are the four categories of zombies. Now, the whole histories of zombies actually go back to Africa, Western Africa and the Congo areas. Zombie originally just meant ghost or spirit of a child. And it goes back to the African religion of Voodoo. Now, there's nothing frightening or demonic about Voodoo. It's just another religion. It's just that Hollywood has taken it and blown it completely out of proportion and given it very much negative viewpoints. Although if you do see a voodoo ritual, you may think otherwise. But it's just another religion or belief system. Now, with the slave trade, many Africans were taken across the Atlantic. And strangely enough, the religious leaders were actually safe from being captured and put into slavery. It was taboo actually to interfere with the leaders. Maybe the traders actually feared their power. Hence, people taken across the Atlantic didn't have reference to their own beliefs. And so then when they arrived in their new places, they were only able to refer to Christian beliefs. And also they weren't allowed to believe in any other religion. If they wanted to continue their own beliefs, they had to keep it quiet and only amongst themselves. Hence, the equivalent Christian saints that would be used to represent African lowers or gods, so they would not be discovered. And so the two traditions actually merged into one. Like any religion, they have their congregation and their services. And this is held in a temple called a honfa. This is where people can gather together and invite their spirits in. Very much how the church invites the Holy Trinity or the Holy Spirits down into the service. Now, in the honfa or the temple, their service is usually conducted around a pole, which is all covered in symbols. Usually a snake is used to represent their lowers or gods, and this connects them to the other realm and this world. The symbol of the divinity is drawn on the ground with cornflour, and this helps to invite the lowers in with candles and alcohol. And the divinity appears and speaks through them through the ceremonies. Now, these symbols represent the lowers or gods that they invite into the service. Like they will paint this symbol on the ground. And this symbol here is for Baron Zamdi. He's the god of death. And he helps people move over to the other life. He also helps with spells and injustices. This one is for his wife, Maman Bridget. And she protects cemeteries and graves in the form of a pile of stones. And the symbol is also the black chicken and corresponds to the Catholic saint Santa Marta la Dominadora. We have other symbols as well representing the other lowers. The ceremonies are high energy and uses all the senses. Their clothing is also highly elaborate and colourful, which also represents their lowers. They feel that part of the divinity is also in their clothing. So that is a brief description of voodoo and their services. And there's nothing really different between their beliefs and other beliefs, in my opinion. It's just different rituals, which in a way are a bit the same and played out differently. Now, zombies are thought to have originated from Haiti, and there are about a dozen secret societies that have descended from the original slaves that escaped from their masters. And they have gone very much underground. That way they could be allowed to practice their beliefs and also not be discovered. And they have developed their own special identity. The Bazango Society is one of them, and they've evolved to be a type of jury or judge in keeping order. And they're the group that's also known for creating zombies. Now there are the Army of Shadows. Now the Army of Shadows is made up by the Bazango Society, which is nothing really to be spooked about or scared about. Apparently it's a collection of images or fetishes and dolls, and they're actually kept at the National Bureau of Ethnology in Port-au-Prince in Haiti. And these dolls or fetishes are made up of different things like bottles and cow horns, fabrics, children's toys, chairs, glass, human skulls, all those sort of things. And it's supposed to be the essence of the past members of the society. And they're also to help in the rituals. In other words, it's a bit like ancestry worship, although these aren't relatives that are passed over. These are members of the society that are passed over, and they invite them down to the service to do their requests. They answer the requests and prayers. Now this one is made up of wood, mirrors, metal, as you can see. He's actually got 2 bottles of rum that serve for his feet, but he also has an actual human skull in the head. And it's all representative of the person that was. And they've put this all together to represent him and to be present, so to speak, at the rituals. Same thing as making a sculpture, really, for a service to represent someone. Like we go into a church and we see statues of saints and Jesus, and it's the same thing, just different materials. Now, that is the story of voodoo and their practices, and apparently what the Bazango Society are known for. But getting into making the zombies, as I've said, sometimes there are actually people are condemned to be a zombie for what they've done, for the bad things they've done. Sometimes people have asked people to turn people into zombies because they've been offended by them, they've done something they didn't like, and sometimes it's even within the same family. Brothers that have turned brothers into zombies because they think they have cheated them in land deals, or people marrying or going out with someone they didn't approve of, and they've turned them into zombies. Now, creating a zombie is a bit more than just the physical. A sorcerer, known as a boka, has to create the zombie, and he does this with the help of a fufu or tetratondan fish, probably better known as the puffer fish, which is actually quite a delicacy in Japanese cuisine, although it is highly poisonous. It has to be cooked properly in a particular way to make it a delicacy and harmless. But otherwise, just left in normal hands, it is very poisonous. Now, apparently, the Boca, the sorcerer, gets the poison from the tetratondan fish, as well as other poisons from other plants and animals, and powdered human bones, and combines it into a potion that is applied to the victim's clothing or even onto their skin. Now, this will make the person fall ill and then appear to be dead. Since the person is dead, the body is buried. Now the Boca returns and steals the body. He administers an antidote which brings the person back to life, but not fully. The person is left in a state of torpor or trance. And it's like, now we've all sort of like seen people, they just seem to be far away. They don't seem to be here. That sort of trance is the same sort of thing for a person who is zombified. Now, this state is also maintained by depriving the person of salt. So though they do eat, they must eat nothing with salt, because that will bring them back. Now, if the drugging should stop, or the Boca should die, they may be able to regain their consciousness and reclaim their freedom. A whole tradition exists, which has actually been documented a few times, probably the most famous by Wade Davis back in the 1980s. He's a Canadian researcher. And Japanese researchers have actually found out there is actually more than the poison of the tetratondan fish that helps in the zombification. Now, there have been countless stories of reports of zombies. And this exhibition that I went to actually had 8 accounts of people through the years that have been zombified and have managed to escape. People that have died, buried, and then years later, like one man that was found 20 years later wandering around and said he was able to escape. There's been other stories where brothers have actually induced their brother to become a zombie because of certain things they did. And girls that have been turned into a zombie because they went out with someone that the family didn't approve. So there's been countless stories, and just delving into it, that a lot of these stories aren't that old. Some of them were like 100 years ago, and some of them as recent as the early 2000s. That's about 20 years ago. So it makes you a bit weary about the practices, that if you offend someone, you could be zombified. But that's in Haiti. Makes you wonder, would you travel to Haiti and have a look? I do believe there are a lot of rituals that are displayed for tourists and people to see, but I would think they are very much watered down versions of the real thing, to quench people's curiosity, but not to let them know the real stories. Because don't forget, a lot of these things are underground and hidden, and only the people in the know actually know about them. So there you go. What do you think? What do you think about zombies? And of course, some of them have actually ended up in psychiatric care because, well, they're free from their master, but their minds aren't totally there. And the only way they could be looked after is to be hospitalized. So what do you think? What do you think about zombies? And this exhibition also mentioned a few books and films that have led to the evolution of the modern day Hollywood zombie. Probably the most earliest film is White Zombie with Boris Karloff, and depicts the ritual and the history of the zombie. Although I think my favorite goes back to 1943, which gives quite another good look, is I Walked with a Zombie. Title sounds a bit teenager flick, but it's actually quite a good film and actually describes the situation of a zombie. So there we have it, the zombies. Very fortunate to see it at the Musée du Quai Branley, Jacques Chirac Museum. And all the pictures you've seen in this video has been from that exhibition as well. So thank you very much. On that note, I've hoped you've enjoyed this little video. If you have, do click the like button, subscribe and press the bell, and that way you won't miss out on any of my other videos, which hopefully will be coming out a lot more. So on that note, stay well and happy, and join us next time. See you then. From me, Tom from the shop, and Dory. Bye.